Hello, I think this is video 6, and if it looks like it's a little different surroundings, it is. We're moved out of our home in Oberlin, so it's about an hour and change away, and so we have a little temporary home that we're living in, and it's all cool. It's all cool. I'll miss being that close to all of you on short notice, but it won't change too much. So sorry about last Wednesday. I couldn't teach the Wednesday class. It was just impossible. But here's what's up going forward. I have, and you will get a mail right now that has 9 different links to video on YouTube that I normally like to play during the course of the class. And it's really important for me to talk about these particular videos because to me they exemplify the language that I like to dissect during the course of the class. Oddly enough, there's no Indian music in here. And perhaps, because that takes a little more of an explanation and in a way. I can do that too, but that's just where we're at right now. This is something I think you can immediately relate to and plug in with and be inspired by. And I'm going to go through them one at a time. And what I expect you to do is have these available to you while we're doing this conversation. So I would hope that you would have them up on your screen, on your computer screen while we're doing this. So you could be checking this out on your phone and maybe have your computers opened up. And as we go through this, I want you, one at a time, as I go through them, that you watch them. They're only about 4-minute videos, 5-minute videos, something like that. Some are even shorter. And they're from various countries from around the world, different people that I have a lot of respect for. Some I've played with, some I've performed opposite. Some have changed my life in ways that they'll never know. So I'm going to go down the list of them, and hopefully you'll have them. There's 9 different ones. So the first one, and forgive me if one of these you've seen, I just wasn't quite sure. But this is a Sarah Vaughan. Sarah Vaughan is one of the supreme divas of the American songbook. She's also a great piano player. And this was her last TV performance in the year that she passed away. And she was inducted into the Grammys, I think it was 1990. And she was inducted into the Grammys in the Hall of Fame. And there's an arrangement of a tune called So Many Stars. And that song, I believe, was arranged by the Brazilian guitarist, arranger named Dori Caymmi. And it's a beautiful string arrangement. And for me, I was living in New York City, and I didn't have, and I spent my whole life now, in 1990, I would have been, I was born 50, like I was 40, 39, 30, 38 years old, something like that. And I'm like struggling in New York City. It's like there's this massive door that has no handle on it for me. I'm like, I can't seem to cut myself a break anyway and ease into this world that, I play for more people than folks in a smaller jazz club, and someone's given me a chance to use more of my talents in a larger arena than, what we were doing. At that time, I was traveling to Europe maybe between 7 and 10 times a year. And not for a lot of money either, just running around trying to do jazz gigs like crazy. So when I saw this Sarah Vaughan thing, I was absolutely in tears. I was just, it left me so moved by her message, and I could tell she was on the way out, but the videos demonstrate her strength over the years, and you can see her. You know, it always reminded me of seeing kind of like an older prize fighter or something, someone that had nothing more to prove. They were absolutely the greatest at some point in their life, and you could see this. And so I was sobbing when it was over, and then they brought on Adam Ant, who was a performance artist, and they said something like, and you know, from the sublime to, you know, whatever, to the music of the future, Adam Ant. He crawled around on the stage and acted like an insect, and you know, and I had my own silent prayer that I hoped that maybe there would be a chance for me to play the music I love and demonstrate what I spent my life caring about to a wider audience. And at that point, there was only a few different groups that I thought I could do that with. In a popular arena, that was Sting, Joni Mitchell, and Paul Simon at that point. So, and I really meditated on that idea, and I promised myself that if I had a chance to be in a band like that, that I wouldn't go commercial in a way. I'd do my best to demonstrate to the leaders of that group or whatever, and try to broaden their scope as to what it was I thought about, even politically, in ways that why the music was important, to incorporate some of these elements that I cared about. So that's Sarah Vaughan. You're going to see that. So go see that now. You hit the link and go see it. I'll see you in a second. Bye. Boom, I'm back. Hope you went and did it. Okay, number 2, Baseku Keate. And Baseku Keate, we did some gigs opposite him with Bocante. And he's from Mali. And he's got a group called, the album's called I Speak Fula. And he plays Ngoni, which is kind of similar to the Moroccan Gimbre, which is the predecessor to the hard wooden type ouds or lutes, and the present day guitar. But these are skin, more like a banjo. And so this tune, I want you to try to figure out what time it's in. And it's really incredible. It's done so well, and it's just great. So you can get a good sense of what that is. And again, this is this triple that, like Leo Blanco was talking about on his thing, the tertiary, triplet sensibility, which is really different than our 16th note funky kind of thing. So check that out, all right? So you should go see that now. I'm back. All right. So remember now, with all these things that you're seeing, so maybe you don't have to see them, stop them, go back and revisit them if you don't want. I would expect you to pick 4 of them. I want you to write a paragraph about every one of these. They don't have to be elaborate. I thought about only picking 4, and I didn't mean to say that. I want you to write a paragraph about every one of them, about what it meant to you, what you could discern about what was actually happening in the music. But the one that moves you the most, I want you to write about with a little more detail and tell me why it's your choice. And so you can do them all, but then the one that is your choice, expect you to write more than a paragraph about it, and just say this was the one that I somehow spoke to me the most, and this is why. All right. So we're now on number 3, and it's Hamilton G. Holanda, and Hamilton is a mandolin player from Brazil, and he's awesome, man. He's awesome. When we went down there, and the Pi students went down there about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago now, 4 years ago now, and we went 3 years, and we went to go see him play at night, and he came out and he knocked us out. And then came out with part of one of the main samba schools, Manguera, I think it was. That's the name of the samba school. And they played along with him at the end of it. It just was so thrilling. This guy burned it up for 3 hours. Check it out. It's like their version of a bluegrass kind of thing. You know, really, you know, everybody knows how to pick and play and knows the deal. It's very special. It's inspiring. So that's Hamilton G. Holanda, okay, from Brazil. Boom, I'm back. Another Brazilian, Milton Nascimento. Now, Milton Nascimento was probably the biggest influence on the jazz world, I would say, and the contemporary jazz world, people my age and younger than me in the early 70s and 80s, because he collaborated with Wayne Shorter and made an album called Native Dancer, which was really, really special. But prior to that, he was a big star in Brazil. A huge star in Brazil. And I played on one of his last records, actually, and I'm very, very proud of that. He was, I just was crazy about him. I always loved him, but nobody had a voice like him. His voice is just incredible. So when you get a chance, you go to this video next, and he's with Chico Buarque singing with him. And both of these guys are at the height of really being successful, you know, in Brazil. I think it's 1987. This movie's from, it could be from 1987. Could be from earlier, but that's the date I have on the video. And I think it's from a movie called Donna Flora and Her Two Wives. And I think you could see, if you see that movie, Donna Flora and Her Two Wives, Chico Buarque wrote the song, I believe. But Milton Nascimento's voice is so beautiful. And these guys really love each other in a very special way. And you can see it, it's palpable. You know, you can tell that, you know, there's something else going on here. It's really, really sweet. Really, really sweet. And it's a live TV show. Next, most of these things are live. So I'm doing my best to not make it be too corny or canned. Okay? So go watch that. I'm back. Damn, he's back. So the next group is a group that plays the rhythm of a rhythm called chacarera, which is Argentinian. And I maybe talked about them to you guys, but the group is called Aca Seca, A-C-A-S-E-C-A, the Aca Seca Trio. And they've collaborated with orchestra. So they're like kind of the Oberlin students of Argentina who, you know, grew up and have very successful careers, and they're very popular. You know, when they play concerts in Argentina, a lot of people come to see them. And when they came to New York City, they sold out the Joe Papp's Public Theater, I think, for a couple of shows. So the classical guitar player sings beautiful. The drummer sings great. He's playing an alternate setup drum set, which is really cool. And he's explored that a lot. You can look him up on the internet as well and just see what he's doing. And the piano player plays bass with his left hand. He's got a keyboard. Sometimes he plays a Fender Rhodes. Sometimes he plays a grand piano. If he does, he has a left-handed bass. So you should definitely check them out. And there's a lot of other videos that you can check out as far as their contribution to the contemporary music that classical players, in a sense, are doing based on their folkloric music from Argentina. And they have a lot of music out, and it's tricky. They play a lot of tricky stuff. So Aca Seca Trio, okay? Go check them out. See ya. Yo. Okay. So this next group, maybe we've danced to them in class. But I wanted to make sure you had a way to see them. This is Los Vaughan from Cuba. And when they have the World Series of, salsa dancing, when they pick the most swinging band to play for it, that's the band they call. And they just consistently were the most swinging band around, playing dance popular music in Brazil. And it wasn't about complicated solos or all that, but you can see how tight the rhythm thing is. And I encourage you in this music to keep clave during the whole thing and try to work on that cascara thing that we were learning. So it's 2-3 clave. Oh. Boom. Boom. 1 and 2. Remember, on the 3 side of the clave, the bass note on the end of 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. And all their hits and the melody. So you'll see how that always ties into the clave. It's not so, people do a lot more tricky kind of clave inversions and all this wild stuff these days. But unless you get in on the ground floor of the dance, it doesn't make any sense, because that's where it lives. It's people music, man. All right. So that's Los Vaughan. Go check out Los Vaughan. Okay, I'm back. Next, he's kind of a hero of mine. His name's Zohar Fresco. He's a Turkish Jew who lives in Israel. I met him because he came to New York City to study with me, as well as experience New York, but he showed up called me up, showed up at my door one day. I lived on 190th and Cabrini Boulevard, up by the George Washington Bridge, on the cliffs that hang over the West Side Highway and the Hudson River. Came to my door, came in, and my daughter Georgia this is over 24 years ago, And he said he wanted to study with me, and he knew what he wanted to study, and I said, great, I said, well, whatever, let me hear you play. And he was only going to be in New York for a limited time, but he played for me, and this guy was so awesome. I said, forget about it, man. I mean, I need to study with you. I said, you're incredible. He was really good. And he had lots of techniques. He had this whole Turkish technique of being able to roll your fingers. They were like nails hitting the drum, like really powerful. Again, I come at it. I'm a jazz drum set drummer who, jumped the fence and got into this much later in life. So, I'm cool. I mean, musically, I know how to play and contribute and play the things I'm hearing. But this guy's investment was in this style of playing. And the Turkish style was much more aggressive than the Arabic style, and he knew what he wanted to study. He wanted to study some other South Indian kind of things with me in the Kanjira. And so, we did whatever we could do together, but he has asthma, and the air in New York wasn't good for him, so he couldn't really stay too long. But we've stayed friends, and the last time I was in Israel, I went and visited him outside of Haifa, out beyond Mount Carmel. And it was really interesting, me being Lebanese and he being Israeli, and he showed me his bomb shelter because the Lebanese were, they send over these very lame Scud missiles that had no sense of direction. They just would shoot them, and at some point when they were having some conflicts over some issue, usually water rights, and I don't like to get political about it, but he was my friend. And, you could see up on Mount Carmel, if he was way up there, whatever, you could see the curve of the Mediterranean as Israel curves around and it goes north up the coast, and Lebanon is there, and you could actually see that. They were so high, so high up, you see the coast of the Mediterranean turn, and we had some hard questions. We had some interesting conversation, and the guy I was there playing with was a very, the most famous Palestinian oud player, actually the most famous Palestinian musician named Simon Shaheen. And Simon's been, and the Hobelin worked with Pied. He actually runs an Arab orchestra at Berkeley in Boston. He's a very dear friend of mine, and he would not accompany me when I asked him to come with me. And I said, oh man, I'm going to go see, Zohar Fresco. He goes, oh, I know Zohar. He's a great musician. I said, oh, you got to come with me. He goes, oh no, I can't go. I will never go. Yeah. So they kept their distance, and I was truly disappointed. I thought maybe I'd find some groundbreaking truth about what's not cool. But I don't want to turn this into that kind of thing. I have a lot of love for Zohar Fresco. He's simply, I think he's just the best, frame drum rick player I've ever seen, and he's artistic. He doesn't just have chops. He's just really artistic. He's great. And he does a summer camp. So if anybody, well, it ain't going to happen this summer, but if anybody thought they wanted to go check him out, you should check him out. So this is a live concert trailer where they kind of cut between a few different cuts, but it's done artfully and it's done well. And he sings. It's cool. And the people get it. Check when the people are playing, clapping clave. Grooving, I think it's in 7, and the drummer takes a solo. The drum set, who's also playing alternates kind of setup. So Zohar Fresco, okay? See ya. Okay. Next, this guy changed the world. He changed the world for me, for sure. This is when I was 1969, check this out. So in 1969, my parents came to talk to me in 1970, said, because I was gigging. I was a gigging guy. I was 17, 18 years old. I was playing 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week. And my folks knew I had some talent, but they said, we want you to go to music school. And I didn't want to go to music school. There's nothing I said, man, forget it. I'm working, I don't want to go to music school. I'll lose all the gigs I do have. And then I heard this band, Weather Report, and Joe Zawinul, who was actually a Hitler Youth, which any young kid in Austria or Germany during the early days of the Nazi Party were Hitler Youth. It's like being in the Boy Scouts or whatever. But that's where he was coming from, but he loved jazz. And he was in the first wave of people that came in the 50s to go to Berkeley, when Berkeley first started, when Quincy Jones was there and different people were around there. And so Joe Zawinul, then he got into Cannonball Adderley's band. Imagine this, a white guy from Austria, swinging hard enough to play in Cannonball, the great Cannonball, and Nat Adderley's band. And then he went on to play with Miles Davis, and on the record In a Silent Way, you can check that out, with Wayne Shorter and Tony Williams. A couple drummers playing on it. There was, I think maybe Lenny White played on it too. And at that time, another bass player came named Miroslav Vidas from Austria. And they were Hungarian. He was Hungarian. He and George Mraz came. They were Hungarian. And but the Europeans, who were the best jazz players at the time, all knew each other, because they were, at that point, the Europeans had not developed their own sensibility of why their own jazz approach was as valid as the American one. So they wanted to emulate the jazz thing, swing, learn how to play swing like American swung and this and that. And you don't see that quite so often. It's much more free now, and they've developed their own stuff based on their own folkloric music as well. And so it's got more, it's got more teeth based on the reality of their lives rather than trying to emulate. But it's in its infancy. They did the right thing, because they wanted to learn how to really improvise over the American Songbook of songs. And there was plenty of, and there was a lot of, in those days, there was a lot of expatriates, a lot of Americans that had immigrated to Europe because the climate was so much better for working jazz musicians. I mean, I myself was asked to go in 1972 by 3 faculty members at Berkeley. I just was in my first year, and they asked me to move to Europe. The faculty, they said, I was in their band with them. They said, we wanted you to come with us to Europe. And fortunately for me, the great vibe player, Gary Burton, told me, he heard about it. He said, don't go. It's not good for you to go. If you go there and you're popular, when you come back home, nobody's going to know you. And he was absolutely right. Those guys are great players, but nobody knows them here. So, so back to Joe Zawinul. Joe Zawinul, now he's went through Cannonball Adderley's band. He wrote that song, Mercy, 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 right? Beep, beep, do, 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 da, do, do, get the goom, beep, beep, do, do, da, da, when I cut to the bridge, the beep, ba, boop, do, beep, do, do, go, 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 get, da, goo, do, goo, do, bo, do, ba, wee, do, da, goo, do, 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 ba, digga, 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 boom. Okay, so that's Joe Zawinul wrote Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. He and Wayne Shorter started a band called Weather Report, which still to this day, there's no world music, jazz, whatever the hell you want to call, fusion-ish jazz group with world music influences. Nobody even comes close. Weather Report is the supreme band of that whole ilk. They led the way. And when I heard that band when I was, in 1970 on their first record, just entitled Weather Report, I think. And I said, man, there's a place for me in jazz. I mean, I was playing swing and doing all that, but I knew the difference between who I was and who the older people was. But this somehow gave me permission to explore more of who I was. And they went on from there to make some of the greatest albums on the planet, which are still hold up, as far as technique-wise. You got to remember, we're just coming out of the Beatles in 1970. So, the electric thing, I mean, a few years after that, they flew me out to California, actually, because I was so in love with how they played. They called me up and sent me a ticket to come audition for the band. And so I flew out to California in like 1976 or something like that, 77. And I stayed out there for a month. And they auditioned a lot of drummers. They kept me around for a while, and I played in the studio with them, but I didn't get the gig. A drummer named Chester Thompson got the gig, who was playing with Frank Zappa. He went to New England Conservatory, Chester Thompson. He was a great drummer, is a great drummer. He was living in Nashville. I saw him down there when we were with Paul Simon. And he got the gig. And there were some other drummers that I thought were almost a better fit in a way, but he had that big sound, and they knew that they had to graduate from that smaller jazz sound because they were playing big arenas and playing opposite, Kool and the Gang and, Chaka Khan and, Earth, Wind and Fire, and they had to really pump up their sound. And so this is the Zawinul Syndicate. It's featuring Kenny Garrett, but the guy who's actually featured here is someone named Paco Seri. And Paco Seri is, he's from the Ivory Coast. And I know about him because a guitar player in Paul Simon's band named Vincent Nguini, who passed away a few years ago, Vincent was his good friend, and Vincent told me he was totally illiterate, didn't know how to sign his name or anything, this drummer. And but he knew him from Paris because the Ivory Coast and where Vincent was from in Cameroon, they all hooked up, found each other in Paris, all these French African, from colonized countries. And this guy is, again, just a natural, just a plain, freaky natural. he's playing thumb piano on this thing, and he's singing. But while it's happening, you could tell Joe Zawinul's voicings and the sounds he has on the synthesizer, everything that he does to frame this thing is so complimentary and so cool. I mean, it's crazy. Joe Zawinul died about 7, 8 years ago. I liked him a lot. I'd see him in New York all the time, and he lived near the new school where I taught, and I always liked him. He's a tough guy, though. Pretty tough guy. Okay, next, I put a little of my own, since we had, if you missed it, you missed a really nice thing, and that was Michael League from Snarky Puppy gave a real wonderful, oh, by the way, go see Joe Zawinul now. Back. Okay, so now we're talking about Bocante, which is the other band the newest band that Michael League has started. This is a band that I am in. And it's with the Metropole Orchestra. So you'll see our band centered in the orchestra. There's 3 percussionists: Andre Ferrari from Sweden, Keita Ogawa from Japan, and myself, Michael League. And you might recognize some of the other people in the group from Snarky Puppy or the Colbert Show on TV. And and that's just the band. And it's really cool. It's a very nice thing. And you get a chance to see how you can incorporate the orchestra in this type of setting. It's not, it ain't the Rite of Spring or some, Arnold Schoenberg. It's not that elaborate, but it works for what the music is. And as far as I could tell, unless they're totally, insincere, the people in the orchestra actually really like playing with us, because they make a point to come up to us afterwards. Because I'm always suspicious of that, and especially Europeans. They have such a great tradition of listening and concert going, and this band is well funded. It's from Holland, so the Metropole Orchestra, and they were really cool. So go check out Bocante, and there's other videos too. Bye. Bow. Okay, lastly is my band. And my band's called Under One Sun. And if you never had a chance to see them, we did a wonderful concert, and we did a recording in our studio at Oberlin. And my group has 8 people in it from 5 different countries. We have from Afghanistan a tabla player, we have a Palestinian oud player, we have a Canadian bass player, we have accordion player from New Orleans, saxophonist from Long Island. Leo Blanco plays piano. If you missed his master class, you missed a really wonderful thing. So he's from Venezuela, Leo Blanco, and Luisito Quintero, Conguero, another percussionist. So it's 3 percussion again in this group, and so I switch between drum set and whatever it takes for my taste to make the music sound good. Luisito, he's out on the road with Chick Corea now, so he's a conga player, but he's super musical and he'll play anything that. Again, he's a very versatile guy, and the tabla player, Solar Nader, he's the best young tabla player I've ever heard. He's just fantastic, and he's actually been raised in America, so he's actually a minor league baseball player too. Interesting guy. But he studied with Zakir Hussain, who's kind of not even arguably like the greatest living tabla player in the world, and he was his protege since he was around 6 years old. So he had a good teacher, but he didn't really know how to play in a jazz group in a way. But I thought he always had the potential to do that kind of thing. So we got together, we talked about song form and what you would do and what you wouldn't do, and but his instincts were fast. He's the only one that he didn't read a note of Western music. He learned the music like faster than everybody, just like without question. And, and tabla can do things that no other instrument can do. They play duets with violin or sarod or rabab, or all the different vina, sitar, and they know how to frame music really, really, really well. So you'll see he plays a solo here, and see if you can follow the form. It's cyclical, and there's a melody that accompanies it. So that's the last thing, okay? Go check it out, and then come back, and I'll be here. I want to talk to you, right? Bye. I hope this whole thing worked for you. It should take you about as long as our class is normally to maybe done all of this and watch my explanation of why I think this is worthwhile. But I want you all to give me a paragraph on every one of these groups and elaborate on the one that meant the most to you and tell me from your heart why it spoke to you. Because some of them might not mean so much to you. They do to me, but they might not to you. That's what makes the world go round. Okay? If it's okay with you guys, I'm going to open my computer here. I hope it doesn't get in the way. I'm going to tell you right now that I got to open this up. I think we should do our finals. I've been thinking about it. Rather than try to negotiate all, new times and everything. I'll see you this week for your normal classes, the Monday people on Monday, the Wednesday people on Wednesday, and we'll do that as we should. And then the following week is your reading week, starting on Monday the 11th. And, your study period, your reading period. And then starting on the week of the 18th, I want to give everybody their, just like we did with your semi-private lessons that we did, I'll give you your final like that. So just expect on the next time we meet, we'll meet this week. Again, we're going to meet this week, and the dates that we're meeting this week are on tomorrow. You're going to get this, but tonight. But May 4th, and then again on the 6th, for everybody we do these lessons for on the 6th. And then the following week is your reading period, and then you're going to get your final on Monday the 18th, and Wednesday's the 20th at the normal time that you've been getting this remote semi-private lesson. If it's in conflict with anything else that somebody's got you doing, just let me know, and we'll hook up a time. I can tell for the most part that everybody's done well. People stepped up who I didn't think would have stepped up, and I think I think we made it a little sexier with the, with the classes that we have, the master classes we have with Osvaldo Golijov and Raphael, and that's going to be on that stage left. It's going to be repeat performance. And then first of all, we had Alain Malay, then Osvaldo, then Leo Blanco, and then we had Michael Lee from Snarky Puppy. And they were all really cool. Everybody had something special to offer. And at this point, I don't know if there's going to be school in the fall. They talk about it. I don't know. I have some family in the serious medical people, and they don't even expect to peak in cities like Minnesota until late July. I don't know how they expect to have schools open, but maybe they will. I hope they do. And but I know it's emotionally tough for a lot of you. Get outside as much as you can. Play music, dance, And when you put on Los Von Von, man, turn it up. And clap clave while you're doing it. Dance and clap clave while you're doing it. Okay? All these things. Do your best to break it down and feel the push-pull of the polyrhythmic sense of this music. That's kind of partly why I gave it to you all. And the Sarah Vaughan thing is just some soul, man. Wow. All right? I miss you all. And I'm hoping that we can be together sooner than later. But if you need me for whatever reason, you just reach out. Okay? And I'm not hiding from anybody. I'll see some of you tomorrow and some of you on Wednesday. This is Sunday night. All right. Later. I'll see you.